Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and today we'll be looking at interesting way in which we can use our non-programmable scientific calculators to do something like this. So imagine we have an expression like this, and we want to find a value of k such that this entire expression turns out to be an integer. So the normal way to do this would be by trial and error. So I'd start with k equal to 0 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, so on. This might be helpful if the k value turns out to be something less than 10, less than 20. Otherwise, what you'd have to do is click on equal to and then go back, erase the k value, enter the new k value and press OK, which is very monotonous. So I am proposing a way to automate this process such that with just one click we can successively iterate through k. And of course, the initial setup might look a little complicated, but I think we can achieve this, and this will significantly save time if k is greater than 50 and so on. So the question where I found this to be useful is where I had to find the multiplicative inverse of 113 mod 2036. And you can see that I've simplified this expression to this, which is what I've shown here as well. So the thing is, we need to figure out a way to successively automate this k value. So let's start by how we could do that. Okay, so let's rearrange this term. Let's assume that this whole thing is equal to answer, which is a variable, and let us rearrange this whole expression in terms of k. So upon rearranging this, we will get that k is equal to 113 times answer minus 1 by 2036. And in our calculator, we are going to write the following expression first. Let's find what the value would be for k equal to 0. So I'm going to simply write this. And turns out the answer for this is just 1 by 113 since this is multiplied by 0. So our calculator has a variable called answer, and it's stored. You can access it by this button, and after doing this operation, answer is going to store 113. Now notice that if you plug this answer into this equation here, you're going to get 113 into 1 by 113 minus 1 by 2036, which is essentially, wait, yeah, 113 minus 1, which is 0. So notice that by plugging answer back into this, we are obtaining k. So now what we're going to do is, we are going to save this value is going to be saved in our answer, and we are going to make a modification to our formula. So the only thing we'll be doing is substituting that value of we'll be substituting k in terms of answer. So that's 113 into answer minus 1 by 2036, and the rest of it remains as it is. So notice that the answer value is 113. So if I run this operation again, it's going to substitute 113 over here. And since 113 into 1 by 113 gives 1, 1 minus 1 is 0. So this entire thing is 0, and I get back the same answer. Now I'm going to add a plus 1 over here. Now notice what happens. It is going to substitute 1 by 113. This whole term becomes 0. And then we end up with this 2036 into 1 plus 1 by 113. So you can see that the calculator by itself will turn the initially k value, it was 0 and now it's 1. So let's see if it can automatically become 2 as well if I press OK. So the answer value will be changed to this. this will be equal to 2037 by 113, and accordingly the answer variable will be stored as 2037 by 113. And now if I run this operation another time, this value will be substituted over here. Notice what happens when we do that. So if we substitute this value, the calculator will substitute this value 113 into 2037 by 113 minus 1 by, okay, let's just keep a track of k. Right now it's 1 before running this operation. So by 2036. Okay, so 113 cancels. 2037 minus 1 is 2036, and 2036 by 2036 is 1, and plus 1 is added. So it turns out, after simplifying this entire thing, we end up with 2036 into 2 plus 1 by 113. So we can see that the k value is automatically incremented by to 2. And then if you run this operation again, the new answer value will be substituted here. That will be sort of decomposed by running these operations, and then plus 1 will be added. So we end up with the k value being incremented by 1. And you can keep running this operation until you notice that this entire thing returns an integer. So let's see how this thing would be on our calculator. Okay, so the first step of this process would be to find out what the value would be for k equal to 0. So let's simply calculate this value for k equal to 0. Sorry. And we get 1 by 113 as expected. And if you clear the screen and click on answer, and you can see that this value is stored. So the next step we discussed was to substitute the value of k in terms of this answer variable. So let's do that, and note that formatting is very important here. Answer minus 1, and this is divided by 2036. And as we discussed, we add a plus 1 here so that after every iteration we ensure that k is incremented by 1. So we close this and we complete the expression. So this is what we have, and note that the value of answer is 1 by 113. So when I run it for the first time, answer will be 1 by 113, and when multiplied with this it becomes 1 minus 1, so this whole thing is 0, and all we are left with is this plus 1. So the value of k is effectively 1 in this operation. And as we discussed earlier, this will give us an answer of 2037 by 113. Let's erase the final bracket. Yeah, so this gives us 2037 by 113. And another thing I forgot to mention is just ensure that your mode is set to fraction by default. This will make it easier to see when your number becomes a whole number. So now, as we discussed, if I click on OK once more, it should substitute this new value of answer and it will go back into the expression. So it's going to substitute 2037 by 113 here, and that's going to cancel out, and this whole term will be 1, which when added to this plus 1 will be 2. So the value of k will be effectively 2. So let's run this again, and we get 4073 by 113, which you can check by substituting k equal to 2 will give you the exact same thing. So let's run this again, and let's keep running this until we notice that we obtain a whole number, an integer. Yeah, so we've seen after a really long time, we finally obtain an integer value. And now let's go back to the board and find out the value of k. As you've seen, we've obtained the final integer value of answer that we've obtained to be 1009. So we can simply substitute that into this equation to find the final value of k. Or if you're patient enough, you can count the number of times you press OK, and that will be the final value of k. Since we pressed k a lot of times and I'm not really sure about what it will be, let's just solve this. So upon solving this, you obtain that k is equal to 56, which happens to be the right answer. So in this video, we've seen how we can simplify the process, or not exactly simplify, maybe speed up the process of doing this calculation and automatically iterating this variable. And I understand if this is not the most efficient formula, there could be a few simplifications to be made. So if you find any, please do let me know. I'll be happy to make a change. And yeah, and if this is very complicated and you have an easier way to calculate this, please do let me know that as well. And the standard way to solve this kind of thing by hand would maybe, it would be, the standard way to solve this would be that 113 divides 2036k plus 1, and therefore 2036k is congruent modulo minus 1 mod is congruent modulo the 113. So you could solve this, and this also will give you k equal to 56. But since you have a calculator in hand, you could just speed up the process by doing this method. And again, if there are easier methods that you know of, please do let me know. Thanks for watching. And the standard way, like if you have any other question, I would recommend you not mug up this formula, but simply form the equation yourself. So say I have to solve a question like, say, xk plus c by y. The general form of what you have to put into your calculator would be x into a y minus c by x plus 1 plus c by y. This is too much to mug up, but the general rule of thumb is find the value of x into 0 plus c by y first. Save this. This will be saved as answer. So then substitute that back into the equation. So so instead of a, you would actually have answer here. My bad. You have answer y minus c by x and plus 1 for the incrementation.